All right, so we are here with Andrew Min, and I've actually known Andrew. Man, I guess we go a while back, right?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So I've known Andrew a while back, and he's obviously grown up, and now he's running his own business. So wanted to interview him, and I thought it would be just a great time here. So if you're cool, Andrew, we're just gonna start.
Okay, sounds good.
So the first question, tell me about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so yeah, my name is Andrew Min. I'm 28 years old, and I am the owner of Crab and Claw Seafood and Andy Seafood Market. And what I do is pretty much like I don't know really, I guess, how to explain it, but I run the operations of the business. I'm like the lead contact for most of our vendors. I do like the pickups, set the prices. So I guess do the financing, I do the accounting, I do the payroll, the hiring. Like pretty much as the owner of a small business, you find yourself doing a majority of the work in those kind of aspects. But I have a lot of help with two amazing managers and eight other employees. So we have a great team that really allows our business to operate as efficiently and as best as possible. Um, and before continuing on, I just want to also say thanks to you, John, for having me on here. It's an honor and it's quite humbling too. I don't know if I like deserve to be on here really or on this platform like this, but I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, considering that we kind of have similar circles of people, I thought this would be a great way for you to promote yourself. It's
Yeah,
kind of funny because you know Andy. And I didn't know Andy's dad was
Andy. Huh?
Andy Kim.
Uh-huh.
Andy and Christine. Do you know?
I
He's
know
the
it.
manager. He's like one of the managers that work at your store. Um,
Okay.
Andrew,
So Andrew's father
Andrew's father.
is one of the managers at the
Yeah,
store.
so he's one of the, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure he's one of the managers or he like works at your store.
Yeah, Mr. Kim. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
close to Mr. Kim.
So,
I don't know his children that well.
oh, it's funny because he's actually like pretty much like best friends with my uncle.
Oh shoot.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah.
Small
So
world.
so when I got there, I was like, what? Like what the hell? Like those small so that's what I mean. Like I think that's awesome that we kind of have like smaller circles of people that we kind of like have a common interest with, I guess.
Hmm.
So yeah, dude. I mean, I wanted to actually ask you the next question.
Hmm.
Let's like start all the way from the beginning. I mean, if you're willing to go all the way from like the time you were a child
Hmm.
all the way till now, how did
Okay.
you get into being an owner at Crab and Claw? Because I know that you were working at KPMG, right? That was like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
last job. But let's just like go way back here. Let's just start
Okay.
about your history. Let's talk a
All
little
right.
bit about Andrew Min here.
Yeah, sounds good. So, wow, I guess this could take a pretty long time, but I'll try to give the short version.
Yeah, a condensed version's fine. That's okay.
Yeah. All right. So I guess like first and foremost, I was born and raised here in Greater Philadelphia area. Went to Wissahickon School District. Graduated from Wissahickon High School. And I guess before going into like the careers and like the majors and how I got to where I am now, I guess it's good to preface with the fact that I was actually not that good in school. Um, and so I think there's like, for the people who like get to know me later on, they're like, oh, you're working this like nice corporate job, and then you're like, killing it in business and stuff. I just want to preface with the fact I do want to emphasize too, like, for anyone listening, maybe who's in high school or college and who just doesn't have it figured out, it's okay. Not everyone has exactly what they want to do all planned out and, study for that. So just I guess, and with this interview too, I want to be really honest, like the goods, the bads, and like just being very transparent here.
Yeah,
So I didn't really care much for like studies and school in high school. It's kind of a bad kid, I guess, like drinking, smoking, skipping classes here and there. I'm just being very honest.
yeah,
But I think what I really learned about myself is that if I have an interest in something, then I can be quite passionate. And once I'm passionate and very driven, then I I think experience and time kind of prove that I can be like decently like successful at what I'm very driven at. But there needs to be that interest first for me. So
Right, right, right.
um I think initially like for just people, parents and society to say like, oh, you have to like study, you have to get do this to go to college and do that. I just needed the, like the why, right? And if it doesn't interest me, and then it wasn't really there for me. So like subjects like Spanish and stuff, I was like failing. Like chemistry didn't really make sense to me. I didn't care. So I got like D's. But
Yeah.
I was very interested in math, right? So like I was in like AP Calc with kids older than me. I like was getting perfect scores on SAT ones and twos in math.
Wow. Okay.
And so what I'm interested in, I did well in. But I think so. Even though I may not have been like the biggest scholar in high school, because I excelled in like math, or like I like founded our like school's first like b-boy club and showed like I guess leadership skills in that. And I was teaching like 30 students at a time and stuff like through SAT and stuff like that. I was still able to get into a Penn State branch campus. And so I spent my first year there, and not gonna lie, I was partying a lot. And
Let's go.
and,
I'm just kidding.
and I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And this is like the twist, because like, after all that, I still made it to like a branch campus. In a year, I would have been gone to main campus and then graduated from a really well-known school.
Yeah.
But because I didn't have like the why and stuff, like I felt very lost out there. And it was a very humbling decision. And shout out to my sister. My sister helped make this decision, but it made no sense to me. But she was pretty much like, instead of like just partying out there, why don't you just come back home and go to community college until you figure it out? But for me, I was like, what? Like I'm already
Yeah.
at like a
Yeah.
good university. Like, why would I take steps backwards and come home
Yeah.
when I'm like living the dream out here and having so much fun? But I ultimately made the humbling decision to come back home. And that's when I was helping my dad out more with his business, which I now run. So I worked at Crab and Claw, the seafood business now. I used to help since like I was 13 years old, like just helping take orders, ringing up, for my dad. And then I more seriously was managing the business on the weekends throughout high school and throughout college after I came back from Penn State.
Mhm.
But anyways, furthering into the education portion, when I was at Monco, so I went to Monco for a little. I went to 3 different schools. While I was at Monco, I felt less pressure and freedom to kind of really like figure out what I want to do, right? It was less expensive and stuff like that or whatever. So I dabbled around, and then I ultimately ended up deciding like, hey, like I think business is the thing for me. So I changed majors 3 different times, and then I ultimately decided like maybe it's business. And I don't know if it's this like independent, not a follower type of like mentality that I just kind of like innately have, where I didn't want to go the obvious path of walking down my dad's footsteps of being a businessman. My dad was a very successful entrepreneur and businessman, but I don't know. I just didn't really want to go down it initially. But I think after considering everything, I was like, okay, I enjoy math. I've grown up always listening and hearing my dad with business. I'm very into like people, personable skills. So I took some business courses, and I just started like acing all of them. And it was like a weird feeling from like not doing so well in school to suddenly like doing really well in things that are more compatible with me.
Yeah.
So I think it was a rocky road, and not everyone's road is so path is always so like, I guess, perfect. It's what I want to say to a lot of people who may be lost in their journey. But it took a little while for me, but I figured it out, and I started doing business classes, started acing a lot of them. And then I transferred to Temple's business school, where I was introduced to the program, like MIS program and major, which is Management Information Systems. So for those who don't know, it's pretty much like a bridge between IT and business. And so shout out to my good friend Peter Huang. He introduced me to it because he was already in the program. And so I was doing MIS. It was very interesting to me. Like it was more like data analytics and stuff and whatever. And so throughout school, I interned at a company called AmerisourceBergen. They were a Fortune 12 company. Now they're like Fortune 9 or 10 or something. They're North America's largest pharmaceutical distribution company. And I was doing like financial like analytics there, and it was really cool to me. I really liked it. And then I ultimately graduated and got a job offer at KPMG, which is like one of like the big four accounting firms, and I
Right.
was doing IT auditing. And so that's kind of how I got there. And IT auditing, it was cool and all. It was a very cool like corporate experience. It's like, kind of got a prestige and everything, but it was pretty boring, not gonna lie. It's not the most exciting work. And
Easy for you, bro.
huh?
It's too easy for you.
Oh, no, no, no. It wasn't about that. But I mean, I thought it was kind of cool, like the whole IT auditing thing, like the more I learned about it, but it wasn't really for me, I don't think. And so I guess going back to the crab and claw seafood business with my father. So my father, it's a whole long story of how he got there, and he did really well for himself. And he always pictured kind of if anyone's gonna take over the business, that it would be me, right? Like so he kind of like groomed me for it. He would like, teach me the ropes, have me there every weekend, every holiday. But he also told me like, hey, look, like, this isn't an easy career. Um, and you know, he told me like there's a lot of benefits to it too, but also there's also a big benefit in being surrounded with like highly educated people and working in a better work-life balance type of environment. And so he really told me like, look, like I'll give you 10 years to really try this whole corporate thing. Like go as far as you can, like go to like VP level, whatever, like just go for it.
Mhm.
And if then and then like you decide like, like this isn't it for me and I really want to take over this business, then I will like, show you everything from the ground up and I'll like, have you take over the business. So that was the plan. And I was like approaching my 2 year mark at KPMG, about to become like a senior associate and stuff. And then unfortunately, due to COVID, my father passed away. And so it was very unexpected. He was overall very healthy, but he was around like that age, like 63-year-old male. And yeah, unfortunately, it was before the vaccine, and it was pretty bad, and he passed away because of that. And so it was not the easiest decision, but also I have a really strong bond with the employees at the store, with the managers. I've been there for a long time, for like 8, 9 years. Um, and it seemed like not the easiest, but an obvious and almost like dutiful kind of decision to take over the business. And so that's kind of how I came about taking over the business. And then it's been now I'm in my second year running the business, and it's been a rocky road. It's been a lot of learning experiences and a big learning curve, surprisingly. Even though like I've been exposed to it so much, surprisingly, there's a lot to running a business than I had thought. And yeah, that's pretty much how I got here.
No, that's awesome. I think one of the things as you and I are as Korean Americans is that um, our parents, right, our grandparents, they come to America, right, for what they think is a better life, and a lot of
Mhm.
that has to deal with education, right, and putting us in a better position to be educated. Obviously, you might have not naturally taken that route, right?
Mhm.
But ideally, that's what a lot of Korean Americans go through, and what I'm saying, we Korean Americans are now specialized, right, to become doctors, accountants, dentists, right?
Right, right.
But I always stress, me as a business owner myself, I always stress, hey, like why don't we double down on our businesses,
Mhm.
as Korean Americans, and making it better. And a lot of the things that I've noticed, especially with looking at it from the outside, like on your Facebook and your Instagram and your social media, is that you've been posting on social media. You've been like the upgrades, right, that you put at
Yeah,
the restaurant, like the lights, and
Mhm.
it looks like from what I've seen, like quality control, right? Like
Mhm.
getting in better shipments of crabs and whatnot. So like kudos to you, man. Like I know that you're grinding it out and you're doing what you have to do. The other thing that I'm truly encouraged by and I have true empathy of is just like your story itself. Like I'm always a fan of the underdog, and that's kind of how I view your story.
Mhm.
Because that's my story as well. Like I didn't even get into Temple, bro. Like I applied to Temple and for a lot of people in our community, in the Korean community, that's like considered to be a safety school for a lot of people. And I didn't even get accepted. So for me, it was heartbreaking because all my friends were going
Mm,
and my choices were limited. Even for college degrees, like I graduated with a degree in psychology, and I mean we can go into detail of my own life, but obviously this is it kind of resonates. The point that I'm trying to make is that it resonates with me. So
mm,
yeah, man, thanks for sharing.
of course.
So yeah, the next question. So like how, just for our listeners, how did we
So we met through KUC. For those who don't know, it's Korean United Church Philadelphia. So I was going there since like second grade, and I knew you for a long time since then, going there. But you were a little older than me, so the age gap made a bigger difference when we were younger.
right,
So we
right.
never interacted too much, or were in the same group of friends, but you were always like a very cool, like much in like laid back young that I saw from what I've seen. Yeah, and so we knew each other through that, and then now I think through social media, just getting to know each other and like that. I mean, that's how we met, but I think now we're more connected because of this path that we've independently decided to go down of being businessmen, of kind of making our own way of doing things. And I just see how involved you are with your business. You're very involved. You're very passionate about what you do. You want to share the knowledge, and like you're using social media and technology to your advantage. And I think it's awesome. I feel like you're also grinding your butt off, and like yeah, it's very admirable to see.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, next question. What is a common myth about your job or your field of expertise?
Um, huh. I guess on a comical note, I guess like a myth would be like, oh, you always smell like fish, but like I do. I guess when I come home from work, I do end up like smelling. Like I as soon as I get home, I throw all my clothes in the wash, or like I rinse it in the sink and I throw it in the wash. But on a more serious note, I guess like this is just things that I've heard like once or twice from like people that I know of, and maybe just kind of a thought that I may have had myself, but is that a lot of people thought that my dad kind of had it easy, I think,
Mm,
running the business. I
mhm,
don't think anyone takes away from like, excuse me, how hard he worked to get to his position.
right.
I think people thought, oh, like he worked really hard when he was young to end up like getting to this position, owning such a big business that like now like he's just chilling. Like he must just, he has people working for him. He probably just sits back and like goes golfing and like life is good.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like before I took over the business too, I never, you know, as close as I was with my dad, I never knew how stressful it could be, I guess, and how much work went into running this business. Cause I guess that's also just how my dad was. He never really showed too much. Like I knew he was doing a lot of hours. I knew he'd be stressed sometimes. But yeah, taking over now, like wow. Like, yeah, no, it's not just because you're an owner, you just sit back and everyone just works for you. And it's very involved. And you're like, as a business owner, you are constantly thinking like 24/7 about your business. Even when you're in bed, even on your days off, you're thinking about your business. Something comes up, you have to take it. You're putting out fires all the time. But I guess that's a common myth, yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. I mean, so obviously you got to where you are, right, for a reason, right? Now who would you consider yourself, oh, I'm sorry, who was your professional mentor getting into the business? I know you briefly mentioned that it was, obviously your dad. Was there anyone else in there that was involved?
Um, no, I'd say like at least for this career, it's definitely like 100% my dad. Also like there's like at the market that we primarily go to, our main like fish market, one of the pretty much like the person who runs the operations of that place, and is like related to the owners of the place. He was like best friends with my dad. Like they would
Oh,
go
okay.
fishing together all the time and stuff, get invited to each other's like kids' weddings. So um after my father passed, he was a huge help actually in the transition period. He would tell me like, look, this is kind of what your father did, and this is like how the market goes. This is like what apps to use to check the weather to see what shipments would come in. Like it's crazy. Like but he was definitely a big like guiding help.
That's awesome. Do you get your stuff all the way up in South Philly, like the Jet Row area?
Yeah, so I get stuff in South Philly. I also get things in Jersey. I get things like shipped too. But yeah.
Yeah, I know that part of it is very like it's very, very grindy because my parents used to own a produce store.
Hmm.
It's like you got to be there at the crack of like early
Yeah, yeah,
2, 3 in the morning because if you're not there, the other supermarkets are taking like all the other fresh produce and you're left
right.
with, like rotten strawberries or whatever. So I
Yeah.
didn't know if that was any different.
Yeah, I guess to talk on that real quick, it's like I think that's how it definitely is for people who are just starting off, right? Because there's so much competition. I guess the part that is easier for me that I can like very much like
Be thankful for.
openly say and very very grateful for is
Yeah, yeah,
because of the relationships that my dad built and even some of the relationships that I like kind of pitched and started from like Jersey, for example, and maintained they put all like the freshest quality like picks that like we let them know ahead of time that we need. They
yeah.
put all aside, mark our names on it, and no one can touch it.
Yo, that's crazy.
Like I don't have to be there at 4 in the morning when they're I like scroll in at like 11 and it's
Yeah,
like, like I'm here to get my stuff.
yeah.
So that part is like really clutch.
That's the thing that people don't know behind the scenes, though. You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
That's actually good to hear.
Yeah, people think it just like appears out of nowhere, like in the
No,
store. And
no, no.
if you don't have it, they're just like, "What the heck? Why don't you have it today?" It's like there's a whole process to get it from the ocean to here. Like, but yeah,
Yo, so what's an insult that you received that you're most proud of?
an insult I'm most proud of. Okay, so I guess there's so a trait of mine that um can not always be the best on a day to day, but that is very useful for me in business is that I have absolutely no problem with confrontation.
Okay.
I am very comfortable with confrontation. I don't look for confrontation. I don't look for conflict. I would much rather have a peace of mind. But if there is an issue and something needs to be addressed, I have no like anxiety. I have no doubts. I have no like, oh, what if? Like, I believe that I can very well speak and communicate with someone to hear their side, me explain like logistically like my point and kind of resolve the issue.
Right.
Right? And so, and if things are very, I don't know, just very like messed up, where something's very unethical, then I also have no problem pointing it out in a more assertive way for them to know to never do it again. And so, um, I think some people might think like some people who are more passive may think like, oh, like wow, like I could never say that, or like, oh wow, that seems like very aggressive, maybe, or something. But in the world of business, you have to be, right? You have to like set your boundaries. You have to let them know, like, hey, like this is unacceptable. This is not like up to par in like our quality and what we expect and our standards of business. And then it really puts certain vendors in check. And I had to do that with one person who kind of like screwed us over once. And I completely like my father worked with him for like all 14 years. I cut him off. I
Oh
completely
wow.
cut him off and I stopped buying from him for like a month.
Yeah.
And after flipping out at him, and then he calls back finally, and I ignore a few phone calls, and then he calls back again, and I answer, and he apologizes, and he says he'll make it right, and then no problems ever since.
Oh
So
wow. Wow. You handle things like a businessman.
you have to, I guess, you have to,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
for real, for real. Like, I think part of that is like, in that same sense, like you do have boundaries, but you're like the best thing to do is keep it real, right? That's the best way to put
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
Truly
Yeah,
respect.
not being petty or not being like beating around the bush, just being very straightforward to like
Okay.
take care of it. Yeah.
I mean, the next question's kind of similar. What do people misunderstand about you the most?
Hmm. So I'd like to say, I mean, I don't generally hear of a lot of people talking behind my back or talking negatively. But maybe it's because
Yo,
it's behind my back and I'm just unaware. So maybe my friends are either very good at not telling me, but I'd say a common misunderstanding might be like, so for example, I'm very present on social media, like as you might be able to tell. And like for others, it might seem like too much. I don't know, like because there's some people who are like really shy, right? And very introverted and it's not even introverted because a lot of introverted people may post the most, but people are very like private. And I think for me, it's like I have nothing to hide, and I use the platforms as very openly as almost like a self blog of just kind of my journey, right? Like the good moments and the bad. But I like to post a lot, and I think some people feel some type of way about it, but I could really care less. But I think one of the things might be like when I post, it's generally like kind of like the good moments, right? Like for example, am very passionate about food. I like love food, and
Yeah.
I think which is why it's great that I took over a business that's food related. It allows me to be more invested in like the quality and things of that nature. But um, so I may like post going to eat out at like a nice restaurant, or I, love my fiance and soon to be wife, and I might post like going on adventures with her, or like just the things I'm thankful for with my friends. And so, because I A have a tendency to post more often than the average person, and B I like to document good moments, I think people may have a misunderstanding that like, oh, like he just has it so good, maybe like, oh, his life it looks like so like picture whatever, like, oh, he's having so much fun, blah, 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 blah. But I think what I'd like to emphasize is these are really like the few hours in an entire week, right? Like these are like maybe all together like 3 4 hours in an entire like week's worth of just grinding and headaches and stresses and things that come up in like daily life. But I mean, I post a little bit of that to be transparent too, but I'm not going to post every time like something breaks or like every time like something goes wrong, right? So I think the misunderstanding is that like I may post a lot of like enjoyable things and traveling and stuff, but that might be from like 6 years ago, and like the day to day is actually like quite the grind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the misconceptions of the Andrew that's partying is probably still lingering
Yeah.
in the atmosphere somewhere. So
Right, right.
yeah. But obviously, dude, it's a blessing, man. It's a blessing to hear that side, you know?
Hmm.
So yeah, the next question. The seafood business obviously requires an extreme amount of skill, right? So when looking for seafood, what are some things like hacks, right? Like hacks to consider when shopping for them?
Okay. So I guess to the average day-to-day retail shopper, so one is obviously smell. I feel like most people don't even smell their seafood until they bring it home, and then if it smells fishy, they just think, oh, well, it's fish. But so one, it shouldn't have like an innately like really distasteful odor. And two, these are like little things, but like even like a clear eye on certain fish can indicate that they are more fresh. Or even when you open the gills, you can ask, like it's not too much. You can actually ask like the people who work on your fish and the people who cut it. You can ask them to open the gills for you, just to take a look inside. And it should be like very like blood red, and even like be a little like wet and like a little slimy and stuff. That shows how fresh it is.
Mhm.
If it's dried out, that means it's been frozen. If you go to a fish market and you see like clumps of ice on top of the fish, that means like the fish have been frozen. It's not fresh. It's not a fresh catch. Just little things like that, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, those are great tips. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna try to wrap it up here a little bit, but for you, right? These are plugs for you. What are some things in your business that you're looking for? I know the common answer would be for, more customers or whatever, but let's just say it's for more customers, right? What
Mhm.
specific systems, products, tools, people are you looking for in your business?
Hmm. So I think first and foremost, you need the right people to run a business, right? The product is extremely important too, but if you have the right people, then they'll prioritize the product too, right? And hopefully you do too as a business owner.
Right.
But Number one is I think the people. So I've really invested over the past year and a half, a little over, on getting the right people, like quality people. And it's cost me a good amount more. I actually pay 50% more in labor than my father did. And for those who don't understand the weight of that, it's a
It's
lot.
heavy, man.
It's a heavy hit.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a heavy
heavy.
hit. But I think it's well worth it. I try not to think about it too much,
Yeah,
but it's a reinvestment in the business by having quality people who show up, who care, who come on time because they care about the business and do their best there. The customers are more satisfied. They feel like they're taken care of, and you as a business owner have a lot less stress to deal with as well. Number two, it's the quality of product. So I've been doing a lot more quality control. There's more to do, but one by one, I go through everything and make sure we're getting the best product. And if we are, we're getting the best prices on it so we can offer the best prices to customers. And then after that, it's just like maintenance. It's but right now I'm trying to focus now that I've fixed most like I guess hardware things and in the store, I want to really start doubling down and focus on the technology, on the social media, on the advertising, the marketing. And I think there's just a lot of untapped potential there that a lot of businesses, younger businesses are taking advantage of now that are growing like exponentially compared to like more old school businesses who don't take advantage of it.
right.
So I've been using the social media more. We went from like, I don't know, like 290 followers to now like 2,900 followers. And we're approaching like 3K, but that's just the beginning. I want to just like start really like focusing on making like reels, like
Let's
TikTok
go. You've
and
been
like
playing TikTok.
yeah, with like music,
Yeah.
with the seafood, and just like make it really entertaining and just blow it up, you know. So I've been focusing on like reaching out to influencers. We got like Raina Huang, a huge like foodie, to come out and review our place and stuff. And so little by little, I'm trying to work on that. And right now we're creating a website that's gonna have updated menu items, and I'm trying to get online ordering on there as well. So yeah, little things like that, step
No,
by
that's
step.
awesome. That's awesome. So lastly, where can our listeners find you?
Okay, so as I just said, we're working on a website. So it's going to be www.crabandclawseafood.com. Not up yet, but it will be shortly, hopefully in like a few weeks. But aside from that, you can find us on Instagram at crab n claw. That's crab, the letter N like Nancy, and claw. And yeah, we'll be posting a lot more there. Hopefully, we'll start posting on our TikTok and stuff like that.
All right, yeah, cool. And I'll make sure I drop the links and descriptions in below.
Sounds good.
All right, Andrew, man, good stuff, man.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this was pretty random, but I greatly appreciate it. And I hopefully this is interesting enough for your viewers and listeners. And hopefully they take something away from it. But yeah, anytime, feel free to reach out. We'll have to connect more. And to any of the listeners and viewers, yeah, feel free to reach out to me too anytime.
All right, man. I'll talk to you, man.
All right, sounds good.
All right,
Thanks.
brother. See you.